Hello. Today we're going to look at the benefits of having in the garden the much maligned and unloved wasp. We're going to do a general overview of wasps, their lifestyle and how they operate, followed by the benefits of having wasps in the garden, and then we'll finish up with how we keep the population of wasps in check. We'll look at the various predators which prey on wasps too. There are over 100,000 species of wasp, and I'll divide them into three different categories. Before I do, think about the size of these things. They're usually between, the largest ones are hornets, which are about 2 inches or 5 centimetres long, and they go down to extremely small individuals, which are extremely difficult to see with the human eye. Now, the three categories are, first, social wasps. They live in nests like bees. There's a queen at the head of the nest that produces eggs, which then develop into female workers that look after the nest and the well-being of the whole community. At the end of the season, they produce new queens and new males, which go off to produce new nests the following year. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, we have solitary wasps, which is the vast majority of wasps, and they live on their own and rear their young on their own. In between the solitary wasps and the social wasps, we have what we call communal wasps, which may well live together, but unlike the social wasps, which look after the nest and the well-being of all the individuals in the nest, the communal wasp just simply looks after its own young. So there, we've done a tour of the wasp, or the wasps. Now we're going to look at the benefits of having wasps in the garden. So what are the benefits of having wasps in the garden? For most people, wasps are annoying, stinging insects which bother us when we're outdoors in the summer, particularly if we're trying to eat or drink. And of course they sting, which causes a certain panic amongst, well, certainly children and adults alike. So, what about pollination? Well, wasps have smooth bodies, and pollen doesn't really stick to them very well, unlike bees, which are furry. And even though adult wasps are passing from flower to flower, their impact on pollination is relatively minimal. There is one big exception I'd like to mention. In the tropics, there's about 800 or so species of fig tree, and there is actually a fig wasp which is responsible for pollination of these fig trees, and there is practically a species of wasp for each species of fig tree. So there, an exception. There are always exceptions to everything. Now, how can wasps be useful to us as gardeners? Well, I'll explain. Adult wasps like to eat sweet things like nectar and rotting fruit, for example, or even fizzy drinks. But their larvae are carnivorous. So if we think of an example of our social wasps, which live in big nests, the nest is full of larvae which are fed by the adult wasps, and what the adult wasps do is they go hunting for all sorts of usually insects. For example, the things which are ravaging our vegetable garden, like caterpillars. They hunt the caterpillars, they mash them up and feed them to the larvae. Solitary wasps are a little different because a lot of them are what we call parasitoid. Now, parasitoid is this: they will lay their eggs in or on other animals, host animals, such as caterpillars or aphids or many of the other pests in our vegetable garden. And the egg will hatch and the larva will eat the host insect that it's been laid on or in and kill it. So again, we have another example here of how wasps are controlling and keeping a check on those pests in our gardens. So that is the big benefit of having wasps in the garden. Now, let's look at how we keep wasp populations in check, or rather how nature keeps them in check. Nature is all about balance. And in nature, there are all sorts of checks and balances to ensure that populations of individual species don't explode. Now, wasps are predators and they serve a great role for us gardeners in the garden, but they themselves have predators too. For example, things that eat wasps are many birds, particularly chickens. If you have chickens, they're very fond of eating wasps and hornets. Other things that eat wasps are, of course, other insects such as dragonfly, other wasps, and praying mantises, things like that. Also, reptiles and amphibians. So reptiles, we have certain lizards that like eating wasps, and certain amphibians will also take a wasp or two every now and then. But as we know, it's all a question of balance. So we need some wasps to serve their role in our gardens, but we need a certain biodiversity to ensure balance, as always. I hope I've pleaded the case of the humble wasp in our garden as a very useful predator, and that maybe from now on we'll all be a little bit kinder to wasps.